What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another edition of the Fightful Wrestling Weekly, brought to you by the fine folks, Fightful.com. My name's Nick. Joining me is Tim. Tim, how you doing?
Doing pretty good. Can't complain. Today's been a pretty decent day.
Today's been so I've worked every single day the last 2 weeks at my main punch-in, punch-out job. I'm really excited to get this paycheck.
That should
quite
be good.
excited. But one thing I'm also excited for is to talk about what Sean wrote in the weekly this week. So let's kick it off with a little bit of information about Monday Night Raw and a certain guy that wasn't there.
Yeah.
Sean writes, Vince McMahon was not at WWE Monday Night Raw this week, and the show was run exclusively by Triple H. There was a report that Vince McMahon, quote, isn't going to all of the television tapings anymore, end quote. But that's been the case for quite some time now, and it really isn't a thing new. It isn't anything new. It's been something that we've kind of known and assumed for a pretty long time now.
Yeah.
Despite that, Vince hasn't been at tapings and wasn't there on Monday. Ultimately, he does still have the final say on all decisions. Although Triple H's influence is increasing as of more, in which he mentions Triple H's influence has been increasing as of more. I just have a kind of a bold question to ask you. With more influence of Triple H, do you feel like we'll also get more interest in viewership numbers? And I'm not saying viewership numbers from people like us. Let's talk about people like my older brother.
Right.
They haven't watched wrestling since maybe the Attitude Era. And I'm not saying bring it back, but I'm saying how can we gauge this interest back in? Well, of course, you want to use the popular things. And I feel like Vince just doesn't have the grasp that I feel like Triple H would on viewership of today.
I get what you're saying, and I mean, everyone always says, well, what's Triple H going to do when he takes over? How's his WWE going to be? I mean, you can look at NXT, but at the same time, you almost can't compare NXT because NXT is a 3 to 4 week at a time taped show. So they have time to plan things out. They make sure everything's planned out well in advance. And if something goes wrong at the tapings, they can edit it to make it look however they want. Or if something goes wrong at the tapings or right after the tape, say like they tape something and all of a sudden we find out so-and-so got hurt. Well, they can just do a random backstage tape at the Performance Center or something, edit it in, and it's like, it was supposed to be like that. With Raw and SmackDown being live, yes, Triple H does good with those pre-taped shows, but we haven't seen, other than like the takeovers, Triple H be really 100% in charge of the live aspect of things. You know what I mean?
Exactly, and I mean not only that. I'm kind of, I guess, very headstrong at the forefront and at the middle of how can we get people to care and not and take away from the it's just fake wrestling. It's just fake stuff. Because you look at NXT, and I know a lot of people that are like, I don't really watch wrestling, but this Johnny Gargano guy is pretty cool. This Aleister Black guy can look like he can legit kick someone's head off. Whatever they're doing in NXT, whatever water or whatever Kool-Aid they're giving the Full Sail audience, I'm loving it and I want some of it because fans like that are really, really what helps wrestlers get over. Yes, wrestlers get over by being good, by being competitive, by being good talkers, but it's also a mix of the fans really talking about them on social media. Every Wednesday we have a podcast and we talk about who we dig, who we don't dig, who we think is doing really well right now. And the more we talk about them, the more we may be influencing people to go watch stuff from them. So I feel like Triple H has that ability to gauge people to think, this is really cool. I'm going to like this. I'm going to talk about this. I think he's got that social media aspect down big time when it comes to his, for lack of a better term, booking.
I do agree that he's probably more, what's the word I'm looking for? More inclined to go check certain things like social media or the actual WWE website and comments on certain posts or something, or at least have somebody that does that for him. With Vince just seems like he's got a plan. He's going to try to stick to it, and he doesn't care what others say. With Triple H, one thing that we know Triple H, cares about what other people think is he always does those NXT conference calls before the takeover. He allows the wrestling media to call in and ask him questions, and And I've heard a couple times where like someone would ask him a question and he would be like, we haven't thought of it like that, but maybe we should talk about that going forward. Like he's taking these questions and like, okay, how can I take these questions and gauge them to improve the product? And the one thing that, like you were saying, how can they make NXT's, like the feel of NXT, come up to the main roster? It's stories. In NXT, we see stories that last more than one pay-per-view to one pay-per-view. Now, it doesn't have to be like a 6-month story, but something that's actually got a good build to it between 2 or 3 pay-per-views that makes sense. I know some people are going to say, well, AJ Nakamura was 3 pay-per-views, AJ Joe was 2 or 3 pay-per-views, but especially with AJ Nakamura, it was kind of just like they wanted to drag it out, but they couldn't figure out a way to drag it out fluidly. They just kept doing crap finishes to keep it going. With stuff in NXT, you always see some sort of a finish that leads to that next idea. And Triple H has got his finger on that as far as how to plan out stuff ahead of time. Because if you remember, I don't know if you guys have heard the story. Back when they did last man standing between Nakamura and AJ, they were doing the takeover the night before. That Johnny Gargano Tommaso Ciampa match was supposed to be last man standing. Triple H had it all planned out to do that as last man standing. And then whoever from the main roster goes, oh, hey, we hear you want to do a last man standing match, but we just came up with a plan to do that with AJ Nakamura, so change your plan. And that's when they went with like the falls count anywhere or whatever.
Mm-hmm. So at the end of all of it, to kind of wrap it up, the influence of Triple H will happen. Triple H will assume control of these 2 entities. And I think when that happens, you're going to see a big change in the way that you look at WWE.
Now,
social media-wise, viewership-wise, and I think numbers.
Now, let me say one last thing, though. For everybody that thinks that Triple H is going to pick a different kind of guy as his main guy, he's not going to have those Vince McMahon checkboxes. Triple H agreed with Vince McMahon as far as Roman being the guy. So if you think, oh, well, Triple H is going to come in and put somebody like an Adam Cole or a Johnny Gargano as the face of the company, think again. Because like I said, Triple H was right up there with Vince thinking that Roman should be that face of the company. So I just wanted to throw that in there before we wrap this segment up.
Right. And as we do begin to wrap it up, we are going to send you to an interview with Johnny Impact. Take a look, folks.
It meant a lot. It was fun. It reminds me of, old school PW. James Moore, Conway, Capitelli, Chris Cage, Jenny Beaver, the old school days. They did, yeah. And I know that Al Snow took over OVW. Tom Dreamer was down there for the 1000th episode, and they're doing some good stuff down there. Man, it's still tough for me to talk about Matt a little bit because he to this day is one of the best people that I've met in the business. And he was my first best friend in the wrestling business. We both were the co-winners of Tough Enough 3. We moved to Louisville together on the same day. We lived together when we first started. And he was the one guy that I would open up to about anything that was bothering me in wrestling. And there's a lot of stuff that bothers you in wrestling because it's not easy. And one of my favorite things about him is it didn't matter how crappy practice was or how slow we were, how much his knees hurt, or how much my ankle hurt, whatever. I feel like we'd get into his Jeep and he'd throw on some classic rock, something like Head East, Going Down for the Last Time, something like that. And he was so positive and happy that it really affected me. Made me positive and happy, and I feel like that's something that I've carried with me since the day that I met him.
And if you guys did enjoy that, you can see the rest of the interview over on the Fightful YouTube channel. Now, with heavy controversy that we're not going to try to make too political into this, which I'm going to try not to at all because I've said my opinion on this multiple times regarding the matches, the state of it, everything regarding it. We have one little last bit to talk about Saudi Arabia, and it has to do with the numbers of people going. Tim, I've talked a lot. I'm going to shut the up now. Go ahead.
All right. So Sean wrote about Saudi Arabia. He said, I've noted recently that several wrestlers I'd talked to were way more uncomfortable about going to Saudi Arabia for Crown Jewel than they were for the Greatest Royal Rumble. It's worth mentioning that none of the people I spoke with were scheduled to make the trip. WWE took something like 80 performers to Saudi Arabia in April for the Greatest Royal Rumble. And of that half dozen we spoke to, they all said they got a nice payday for the show, but beyond their moral issues, the place was difficult to navigate. This go around, WWE is only scheduled to send roughly 20 performers to the show, and none of the wrestlers who aren't scheduled to go seem to know if there will be a company-wide bonus or increase due to the huge amount of money WWE is set to receive. Now, as far as him saying Saudi Arabia is difficult to navigate, I know Jericho talked on his podcast that it was very boring there because of some of the things they aren't allowed to do in the country. He said they got there, they got ready to do the stuff like a day or two before, and when he went to leave, it was just hectic. No one knew where to go to get to a taxi. No one knew where to go at the, what's it called? Why am I blanking? The airport. No one knew once they did get to the airport where they can board there. Like he said that it was just hectic, and with them only now needing to bring about 20 guys, it makes sense because they're doing that Crown Jewel World Cup tournament. There's going to be guys doing 2-3 matches for that tournament. Then you've got, I guess, another 2 dozen-ish almost. Well, not 2 dozen, like dozen and a half. That's going to do all the other matches because you got a couple tags. You've got a couple singles matches. So, I mean, this time around, WWE is really trying to only bring who they need. Last time they brought extra just in case because of that big Royal Rumble they did.
Yeah, and I mean, with everything regarding Saudi Arabia, it's just been weird. It almost feels like it's just weird.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't know how to explain it. I just know how to explain it as it just feels really weird.
And for everyone that keeps saying, oh, maybe they'll move it, maybe they'll do it somewhere else. Thursday morning, WWE released a statement that the show will in fact be taking place in Saudi Arabia. So it's not going to get moved last minute because they have to leave like now. They have to be there already setting up the stage.
Mm-hmm.
So
with that, folks, we thank you for tuning into this week's Fightful Wrestling Weekly. We're going to serenade you. We are going to seduce you with the soothing sounds, or I guess like the negative ASMR of Sean Ross Sapp and Jimmy Van. The Listing You Boy. Take a listen. Enjoy it. Thank you guys so much for listening. We'll see you guys next Friday. Bye.
have a good one.
Sure, yeah. Now, some people were complaining about the timing of the Dean Ambrose turn and, was it good timing considering this news and all that? I don't have a problem with it. And honestly, the timing made it one of the greatest turns of all time. When you think about some of the greatest heel turns ever, going back years, I can think of stuff like, say, Paul Orndorff on Hulk Hogan. I thought that was a great one. Yeah. Shawn Michaels on Marty Jannetty was a great one, right? But with those ones, it was pretty obvious it was about to happen. Like, you could see that it was about to happen. I didn't see the Ambrose thing coming at all. They had just won the tag titles.
I thought they were going to maybe let it boil for a long time. I thought maybe we'd get it at WrestleMania, a triple threat, and that would be cool.
Right. Yeah, that was a hell of a heel turn. Phenomenal.
What they did has me so interested in watching Monday Night Raw next week.
Right, yeah, and when you look at the alignment of stuff now, so now they've put Braun Strowman where he should have been all along. They have Braun Strowman in the top babyface spot, and they announced that Crown Jewel, and boy, we're going to talk about Crown Jewel in a minute.
Oh, we sure are.
But they've announced that Crown Jewel now is going to be one-on-one Braun and Brock for the Universal title. So he's in Roman's spot. They've essentially put Dean into Braun's spot as kind of like the top heel. But they've also got Drew McIntyre in that spot. So the top two programs now can be Dean and Seth and Braun and Drew McIntyre. And that's the direction that they're heading. And then on top of that, Sean, they took the guy that you and I have been putting over. It's almost like we're his agent because we put him over so often. They took Elias, the guy that we've been putting over forever. They finally pulled the trigger on a babyface turn. You give that guy 3 months, Sean, he might be the biggest star on that brand if they go in the right direction with him creatively.